Hello guys, welcome back. So today we will make this type of functionality in our websites. So this is our fourth project in 50 projects with HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So if I load this page, so suppose if I load this page, if you see this number will increase 0 to 100 and this background image will show the clear image. So at the start it will be a blurred image. So as soon as we load the page, that number will increase from 0 to 100 and this blur will fade away. Okay, so now if I refresh it again, so if you see this number is going from 0 to 100 and this background image will, the blur of this background image will fade away. Okay, so we will make this type of functionality, so you can use this type of functionality in your bigger project, in your any website which you are making, if the requirement is such like that. Okay, so let's get started. So here is our project and this is our files: index.html, script.js, style.css. Okay, so in index.html I have done nothing, just added a title, Blurry Loading. I have just added a script.js and style.cs. Okay, so let's start it from the body. So here if you see, I just need two things. I just need background image and I just need this text. Okay, so this is the only two things that I need in the index.html. So let's make a section. Let's make a section of class background. Okay, bg. So this is what we need for background image, and for the text I want a one div having a class loading. Okay, initially it should be 0%. Okay, so that's it for HTML. We just need background image and we just need one text that should show the percentage of loading. Okay, now let's move to CSS. So in CSS what I will do, I will apply the CSS. I will apply the CSS for the root. So box sizing, I will apply box sizing, border box. Okay, that's it for root. Now I want to apply the CSS for the body. I want to be display flex. If you see here, this 0% is showing there, but I want this 0% to be in the middle of the page. So that is why I'm giving the display flex, not flex root. Flex. Okay, I want the align item center. I want the justify content so that it should come in the middle. Okay, so when I give the height, when I will give the height of 100 VH, it should show in the middle now. Okay, so now it is showing in the middle. I want the margin to be 0. It doesn't matter here much. I just want the overflow hidden. Okay, so that's it for body. Now we will move to background image. So background image have a class bg. So for that I want to apply the background URL. Okay, and I want this URL. Okay, so I have saved this URL. So basically it's the same image that we have in the end project. Okay, so now if I save it, paste it. Okay, now what I want this is no repeat mode. Okay, I want this to be in center and in the center as well as cover. Okay, now if I save it, why the background image is not loading? Okay, we need to add the position of this background image. Let's say add the position to be absolute with respect to body. Okay, let's add this top to be 0 and left to be 0. So now I've given the top 0, left 0. Now I have to give the height of this background image, let's say 100 vh, and let's give the width of this background image of 100 vh, not 100 vh, 100 v width. Okay, now it is showing the image. Okay, now what I want to apply the blur. I want to apply the filter. What is the filter? Blur. Okay, so let's say if I give the 30 pixel, so it is looking like this. But what I want this to be if you see in the left part, in the bottom, top and right part, it is showing something like white color. I don't want that. So what will I do is, I want this background image to come from a lot from outside the screen image. So that is why I will give this top minus 30 pixel and left also minus 30 pixel. So now if I save it, this will hide because this white color will come from inside the pages. Okay, leftmost part. So this is outside the screen, is in the left and top. So that is why, but I want to hide this from the right side also and also from the bottom side. Okay, so what I will do here, so since I have to add in the height, I will use the cals method, and I want this to be 100 vh plus 60 pixel. Okay, so if I save it, this bottom, if you see in the bottom, there is no white line now showing. Similarly, I want to add this for width so that it will go towards right. Okay, 60 pixel. If I save it, this white will go away for this also. Okay, now what I want, so initially what I want, initially it should be 0. Okay, initially it should be 0. Now I have to give the z index. Why? Because this background image should be below the text that I have added, that 0% text that is loading the image, load text. Okay, so I want this text to be on the top of this background image. That is why I have given the z index -1. Okay, now what I will do, I will add the css for this loading. I want this loading text to be 50 pixel font size. Okay, so now still it is not showing because it's in black color, so I will give the color to be white. Now you will be able to see. Okay, so that's it for css. Nothing I have done. I've just added a background image, I've given the position, and I've given the blur initially 0 because I want this blur to be 0 initially. And what I want the text size of 50 pixel and the color of this is white. Okay, so now what I will do is, as soon as the page loads, here, what I want this to increment this number, and I want to remove the blur. Initially it should be 30 pixel, not the 0 pixel. Initially it should be 30 pixel. As soon as the number increases, this blur will fade away from the background image. Okay, so that's what I want. So these things we will do in JavaScript. So as soon as we load the page, it should remove the blur and number will increase. Okay, now let's move to script.js. Let's make a variable bg for the background image, document dot query selector, and I want this bg. Okay, not this one, I want this bg. Okay, Similarly, I want loading also, loading class. So let's give the variable name loading only. Now what I want, let's make a variable load, which will initially it should be 0, correct? Okay, initially it should be 0, and as soon as the page loads it should increase. Okay, now let's make a function which will increase the number and which will lower the blur. Okay, so let's make a function of blurring. Okay, so when we invoke this function, I want this load to be increased, and what I want, if the I want this load to be stop after 100. Okay, so if the load is greater than 99, what I want, before that I want this invoke this function. Let's make a variable interval. So let's call the function set interval, and inside that I want to call the function blurring. So I want this function, I want this blurring function to call at every 30 milliseconds. Okay, so what it will do, at every 30 seconds it will call this function, and what this function will do, this function will increase the load value. Okay, and now what I want, if the load is greater than 99, what I want to clear the interval, I don't want to increment. Okay, so which interval I want to clear? Interval, because I've given the variable name interval. Okay, these things that I want. Okay, now what I want this text to be changed. So I want this text to be equal to this load. Okay, so at every 30 milliseconds this function is calling and this load will increase. Okay, as soon as the load is greater than 99, I want to clear the interval, I don't want to run it. Okay, so now what I want, so I will take this load because I have to add the text in this only. So that is why I'm taking the loading, and I have to add the inner text. Okay, so what I want to use template engine because I have to use the load value. Okay, so load, after that percentage is there, that is why. Now if I save this, see it is running. Okay, again if I load this page, see it is increasing at every 30 milliseconds. Load is increasing, and that load we have inserted in this text in this element. Okay, so this is what. Now what I want this loading to be fade away. Okay, so that is why what I will do, I want this opacity. So as soon, if you see here, what I want, as soon as it goes from 0 to 100, it should fade away. So that is why I'm adding the opacity. But if you see, the opacity value will go from 1 to 0 or 0 to 1. Okay, so we have to map the load value with this. So load value is increasing from 0 to 100, but I have to decrease the opacity from 1 to 0. So I have to map the range of numbers with certain range of numbers. Okay, so for that what I will do, I will make a function scale. So what this function will do, this function basically map one range of numbers to another range of numbers. So see here we have load is increasing from 0 to 100, but what I want the opacity from 1 to 0. So as soon as the load is increasing from 0 to 100, in the same way I have to decrease the opacity from 1 to 0. So it should be sync between each other. Okay, so this is a function basically which will map the range of numbers to another range of numbers. So I will make a function that is number in min. You can go through this function, you will find this function in the Stack Overflow. Okay, auth main and auth max. Okay, I will make the arrow function. So what this function will return, it return basically a value. So suppose our load is 0, then opacity is 1. Suppose our load is 10, then opacity something like 0.7, 0.8. Suppose if our load is 30, so then opacity will be 0.6 or 0.5. So that is what they will map. Okay, so this function will map one range of numbers to another range of numbers. Okay, now so this function you can go through. So now what I want, aught max minus aught main, and I want to divide this using in max minus in min. Okay, now I want to plus this aught min. Okay, so this is what this function will return. Okay, so what I will do, I will call this function scale load. So which number I want to use this load number. What is the minimum value of this load? 0. What is the maximum value of this load? 100. What is the minimum value that I want to go for a 1 to 0. Okay, so this is what. Now if I save this, see, this will fade away as soon as it goes to from 0 to 100. This will fade away. So what this scale will do is it will take the function that we want, and this number basically. So here if you see two range of numbers, one is going from 0 to 100 and one is going from 1 to 0. So that is what. So and which number that we want to go for load. So that is what we make the function, and it will map 0 to 100 range of numbers to 1 to 0 range of numbers. Okay, now what I want the background image to be blur away. Okay, I want to show the clear image. As soon as the load is increasing, I want to remove the blur from the background image. Okay, let's say bg dot style dot filter. If you see, we have the filter property in the css. So I want to use the blur. I want to use a template engine. Inside that I will use the blur property, and I will call this function because what I want. So what I want, this load will increase from 0 to 100, but I want blur to be 30 to 0. If you see, initially our blur is 30%, 30 pixel. Okay, I want this go from 30 pixel to 0 pixel. So that is why, and the load will go from 0 to 100. That is why I want to map both these range of numbers. Okay, so upon load will go from 0 to 100, and I want to go from 30 to 0. Okay, now if you see here, I have to use this curly bracket here, not the actual bracket, because I have used the template engine. Okay, pixel. Now as soon as the page loads, it's not increasing, something is problem. Blur, I've used the blur, I've used the brackets, dollar scale function, I'm using the load. So here I have given the dot instead of comma. Now if I save it, if you see, this background image will come, the blur of the background image will fading away as soon as the load is increasing from 0 to 100. Okay, so hope you understand it. This is just a simple functionality in any websites. So this function you can go through. Okay, so what this function is doing is it is mapping from one range of numbers to another range of numbers. Okay, and what we have done, we have just increasing the load value after every 30 milliseconds, and when the load is greater than 99, I want to clear the interval, and in between I want the opacity to be 1 to 0 for the loading, and I want the background image to be blurred away. Okay, so now if I refresh this page again, if you see, this text will go from 0 to 100, and this background image blur will fade away. Okay, I hope you like it. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and please share this video those who are in need. Thank you for watching.